great sports fans talking hockey and football with a dash of everything else. Ready?
I noticed you mentioned in 2013, the greatest day in Rider history or provincial history there. Not better than 89?
Well, for me, it was.
Yeah?
Yeah, and but the reason is, while many will say the 89 Grey Cup was the most exciting game in CFL history, 43-40 for the Rough Riders at Sky Dome against Hamilton, this one was at home in front of 44,000 fans. And
Yeah.
Honestly, in 2003, when Saskatchewan hosted the Grey Cup, you know, I mentioned we used to do things that the Riders don't do anymore, but we had a pep rally at the start of the season at Casino Regina in the show lounge. You ever been in the Casino Regina?
Yeah.
We packed the show lounge. We introduced the players one by one. It was like a college pep rally that you see in the movies. And I stood there and I said, and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders will be playing in the 2003 Grey Cup. And like people, they're like, are you high right now? Are you drunk? What do you mean? We're not going to get, you know, there was a cheer, but it's like we would, you know, in Saskatchewan, Jason, as you know, for years, we felt we couldn't have nice things, you know, and nice things didn't happen to us, not only with the football team, but just with the province in general. Mm-hmm. That mindset's changed over the last generation, but we never got to that Grey Cup in 2003.
Right.
So to have been hosting in 2013 was mind-blowing to think that we'd even be in the game. And then it was not a close game. I think it was 45-23 was the final. The Riders just absolutely destroyed the Hamilton Tiger Cats that day. It wasn't even a game. Like at halftime, I think it was 31-5, 31-6. It was just an absolute demolition from the start to the end. So nobody's calling that the greatest Grey Cup game ever. Yeah. 89 probably was. But to have and the other thing is when you watch a Super Bowl or a Grey Cup, it's not one color in the stadium. It's 32 colors or more, right? Mm-hmm. It was all green that day. Maybe 100 Ticats fans that were there, that friends and family. The rest, it was Rider Nation on hand, biggest day ever in provincial history, and I got to call it. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, even Jim Hobson, I said to him, how do we top that in the new stadium? Because I don't think we can top it. And he goes, the only way the Riders top what happened in 2013 is if they win back-to-back Grey Cups. And because that's never before been done here. You look at the CFL being on death's door, and I'm sitting there on my show every day saying, and you actually said the other day, Rod, do you feel like it's Groundhog's Day? You're saying the same thing. People aren't getting it. They're not getting it. People don't want to hear the truth in life or sports. Sports is a microcosm of life. I'm like, it's dead. It's over. It's either going to die or you need to do something to pivot to save it. But you just want it to go down, or you're going to let it go down. I'm saying the truth every day on the show, and people don't want to hear it, and they're getting very angry at me, and I don't care because I can take it. In the recovery world, you're in people's face going, you're at the end of the line, buddy. You're at the end of the line. So you're either going to change your life or you're going to lose everything. The choice is yours, right? That's kind of what it is with recovery, okay? And I'm not speaking from a moral superior ground here because I was in that chair, faced that choice, and I made the choice to changed my life. Whereas with the CFL, it's like, you guys want to keep pounding this square peg into a round hole. It's not going to go. So the more that you fight with each other and point your finger at each other, and the players are blaming the owners, and the owners are blaming the players, and the fans are blaming both, you know what I mean? It's going to go down. So that's the point. I call the recovery business the truth business, the honesty business. Sports is anti that. I've told my family that if they'll have me, I'll never leave, because all I ever wanted, well, I'm serious. All I ever wanted to do was hockey. I was never a football guy. I was never a football guy growing up. I never had the dream of being the voice of the Rough Riders. It happened, and it was a wonderful portion of my life because I've got all these new friends and great memories and Grey Cup rings. But I don't regret making the choice to pick football over hockey at the time when it was presented to me. But now to be back, it's the concept of recovery, Jason, to get something back that you thought you'd never, ever have again. There's no greater gift in the world. So for me, it's my life before alcohol and sobriety, or Pat's hockey with my favorite team ever of all the teams. You can see why I'm such a happy guy.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So do you think with you were speaking about the coaching and then Tortorella, do you think Tortorella, and he's coached in Calgary before, so I know where you're coming from. He seems to me like a guy who's just kind of stubborn in his ways and doesn't like to kind of adapt to situations that he's with. What do you think?
Yes and no. I do believe he is stubborn to an extent, but you've heard from a lot of the players, and then also you can kind of see it in how the teams act and how the teams handle themselves. Since he was coaching like Tampa Bay back in 2004, it's gotten a little bit different. You can tell he's opening up. He's having more of an open mind to be able to try different things and try different structures and systems. But I think it's one of those things that if it doesn't work for 3 games, okay, well, we have old reliable. We're going to go right back to the exact same thing that I've done forever on all these teams. Mm-hmm. You see him go to these teams, and I didn't pay attention to it. We actually, I think it was during one of Zach and I's live streams, somebody pointed it out that the career for John Tortorella for his coaching, he usually will go into a team, and the first 4 seasons is great. It's, you're on an uphill swing, you look fantastic, you have a lot of promise, and then that 5th year, he's terrible. And it's like that with every single team. And we're in that 5th or 6th year, and it's not looking good. So it's one of those things. I think I could see him being a fantastic candidate to go to Buffalo after the season's over, because his contract is up after the year, and that's not as a long-term situation, but he's good at changing the culture around whichever organization he's at, and I think Buffalo needs that right now. Columbus, we're kind of past that. We've got over the 12, 13 years of being in last place all the time. Now we're going to just be stuck right in the middle at 4th or 5th place all the time. So it's one of those things. I think that he's a great coach for the right situation, and I think we're past that in Columbus.
Now I'm going to get both of your comments, and I'll go back to Zach first on the Dubinsky thing here. First of all, I have to say that it's awesome to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice to finally see somebody that, doesn't put these superstars on a pedestal and treat them like gold and tells it like it is. I mean, I like Crosby. Crosby's a good player, but he's a whiner, and he's a spoilt brat. What do you think?
I mean, I thought the whole situation was hilarious because just the fact that it was unprovoked. Guys from Garage Beers didn't really say anything to get him going. He just dropped it, and then it just created this whole thing on Twitter. And you got Hockey Night in Canada talking about it. You got NBC, Washington talking about it. Bar Down, TSN, Sportsnet. It's all over the place. Like Dubinsky is sharing graphics of his quote on his Instagram story. Like, you just got people all riled up and stuff like that. Pittsburgh fans are just beyond mad at him. So it was something that was just so great, and it just adds another layer to just how hockey is probably one of the best sports out there. And I know people are gonna be like, well, it's not that popular. It's like the 4th best, and it could be maybe considered 5th. It's like, no, it's like, because you guys just don't understand how great the game is, and it's just, it adds another layer to how just fantastic the sport is, and it just adds another storyline. So overall, I thought it was just great, and for the fact that how they just got Dubinsky just to say that, and he just did it without them even asking him or anything like that. So it was fantastic, and just the fact that it just completely just blew up and it was just everywhere. It was wild, and just talking to those guys behind the scenes, and they're like, we have no idea this was even going to happen. We were just having this guy on, and all of a sudden now we're pretty much we're all over the place because of him just dropping that quote, and everyone's just getting upset about him. They're like, there's a great debate of who's the best guy is and all that. So it's just a wild scene of how that just went off like that out of nowhere. But it was just so great. It was so great.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think?
Well, I've loved Dubinsky since we got him in that trade in 2012, the big Rick Nash trade with the Rangers. He's been a staple of Columbus. You started to see a lot of the success since he came. So I've always liked him as a player. this just makes me like him as a person that much more because, I live in Columbus. Everybody hates the Penguins. It's either you love the Penguins or you hate the Penguins. Anything to just make the Penguins fans more butthurt. The only downside about all this is, we have to get all these stupid pictures and GIFs on Twitter now of Sidney Crosby holding the Stanley Cup all over again. Like I thought we were done with it. We had them, and then we had the Capitals, and then the Blues, and then we've had the Lightning. Well, all of a sudden now we're having to get the Penguins fans doing it all over again. So it's whatever. But yeah, I 100% agree with him. I don't respect Sidney Crosby as a person. He's a great player. I would take Ovechkin all day just because he's the same way. If you have a beef with Ovi, what's he going to do? He's going to drop his gloves and you guys are going to scrap and you're going to get it over with. Crosby is going to sit there and complain all night and chirp, and then you're going to sit there and just shove him gently once, and then you're going to get a 10-minute game misconduct and 47 roughing penalties and all this other stuff because you sneezed on him. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and he's just the biggest flopper in the NHL because there was that thing today between Boston and Pittsburgh, and like it looked like that they were doing a face-off, and he didn't even get touched at center ice, and he falls down like he got sniped from the top deck, and it's just like, dude, it's like, come on, man, like just stop. Like, this isn't basketball. We're not. There's guys that do flop in hockey, but it's very rare, and you get clowned for it. So it's just like, come on, Sid. Like, we know you've done this before, but it's 2021. Like, how about we just stop this and actually play hockey? Stop pretending like you got hit. Just stop.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one more hockey question. Cup predictions. Zach, who are you predicting to win the Stanley Cup this year?
All right. Well, I did. Well, at least I get to redeem myself because I did pick the Flyers, and that's kind of just went down the drain right now. So, I would say right now I'm picking Colorado to win it because they just look like a wagon right now, and I don't think anyone's really going to touch those guys. So I want to say Colorado. I would say who they'd be playing, but we don't know what the playoff format's going to be like. So I really can't give you who they're going to beat, but I'm going with Colorado because they're just too good right now, and they're pretty much just running. They're just too good in my opinion.
Well, I think they're still in the. Let me just look here. Oh, I see. They don't have it separated into conferences at the moment. So yeah, that's weird. It's weird when I look at the standings and there's no conferences either. Alex, what are your predictions?
So I have two. One is going to be the realistic one, and that is Colorado. I am on board with Zach.
To Colorado.
They are insane. That top line has accumulated like 58 points, just them in like the last 17 games or something. It's outrageous. Mm-hmm. They're so good, and I think if they can solidify their goaltending a little bit more outside of Grubauer, you have Pavel Francois. If you can get him going, then they're going to be hard to beat. My hot take winner is the Minnesota Wild, just because of how they've played this year. They've come out of nowhere. Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen are absolutely going bananas. Matt Zuccarello has been very good since he came back. And then Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov, obviously, has been going insane. But that whole team looks fantastic. And it's one of those things, if the Blue Jackets aren't in it and the Blackhawks aren't in it, I'm 100% going to be rooting for the Wild the entire time.
If real quick, if I had to pick this hot take team that Alex did, I'm going with the Winnipeg Jets as the hot take team that might win the cup.
Gross.
Alex is gross.
I knew you were going to say something. I knew Alex was going to say something because the fact that they trade away Dubinsky and he goes and wins in cup, that I think that would just rile up so many Jackets fans. So the fact that they got rid of him and he goes and wins a cup that same season, that would just be pure chaos on Blue Jackets Twitter.
Okay, my predictions. So realistically, my prediction has got to be Vegas. I think they're going to actually do it this year. My hot take prediction, I'm going to say Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to say Florida. They just come out of nowhere.
Now is Ryan McCarthy from the No Credentials Required podcast. Ryan, how's it going?
Good, Jason. How about yourself? How's life in Canada?
I'm doing all right, although we got a little bit of snow overnight. Not too much, but a little bit. Enough to put a skiff on the ground, but it's all gone now because the sun is out.
Yeah.
How's the weather in your neck of the woods?
Well, right where I am in upstate New York, we're currently experiencing a bit of a mild spell. It's going to go down. I think we're supposed to get some rain later, so nothing too fancy. It's not snow, thankfully. I've had enough of that I've had enough of that for the season. So I'm looking forward to warmer weather, getting outside and do some activities.
Yeah, that'd be great to actually get out and do some stuff.
So like throwing the pigskin around.
Yeah, throwing the pigskin around. No more puck, just pigskin. Although the puck, we got the puck going on the TV still. So why don't we start our conversation there with the good old NHL? And of course, you and I typically are live every couple weeks with the fantasy hockey, and we got playoff races starting to shape up. What are your thoughts so far on the season and how the divisions are set up and all that kind of stuff?
I kind of like the way the divisions were set up for this year. It's an exceptional year. I don't know if they'll keep the divisions the way they are for next season, but it's kind of funny seeing how it's just interdivision, and the rivalries have been really, really great, for the league. I think having an all Canadian division has been fun to watch. For the couple of games I've watched of the Canadian teams, there's a lot of fast, exciting action. You guys got a lot of really good players up there right now with Toronto and Edmonton. Obviously, you got McDavid and you got Matthews for Toronto. But I think that the interdivisional play has been fun to watch. My New Jersey Devils have the Boston Bruins in their back pockets, which is kind of fun, but they just can't beat Buffalo. So I'm a little peeved about that. But I mean, this year's been kind of, like I said, it's been fun to watch, and just watching the divisions play out. We're getting down to the wire with the trade deadline, which is tomorrow as we record, and it's going to be fun to see what the standings are after the season, after all said and done, and see who adds, which teams add which players that'll make a difference for their team going forward, and for the rest of the season, and in the divisional race, and also in the playoffs.
Yeah, geez, if it weren't for the New Jersey Devils, I wonder if Buffalo would have any wins.
I think four of their 10 wins have come against the Devils this year.
I think so.
Can't stand it.
That's how it always works, though. You always seem to lose against the bad teams, right?
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of the interdivision play and the rivalries that are heating up, the Battle of Alberta fired up again last night, and my Flames beat the Oilers 5-0.
Oh, skunked.
Yeah, so it's nice to see the Oilers have a bad game once in a while.
So wait, I'm trying to remember. You're the Flames fan.
I'm the Flames fan.
Your wife is the Oilers fan?
My wife is an Oilers fan. She is also an Edmonton Eskimos fan. And I'm a Calgary Stampeders
Edmonton
fan.
Football team.
Sorry, Edmonton football team. I'm curious to see how many people are actually going to drop the Eskimo name going forward from here on in. I know a lot of the true fans probably never will, but
I mean, I've only heard one podcast. I listened to the Two and Out CFL podcasts, Travis and Ty.
Yeah,
they go with the Edmonton football team, but I mean, for the traditional fan, I think they're going to keep it Eskimos. Keep it the Eskimo. I mean, I still call the Washington football team the Redskins at times. So
yeah, I think for the most part, it just kind of comes out, right? You don't really think about it when you're saying it.
No, I mean, I'm 43 years old, so I've called the Redskins ever since I could talk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to change. Change is hard.
Montreal is a team that, and I see them play quite a bit because they're usually on TV before the Flames play. I think they're a team that is on the cusp of being just as good as the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they had some goaltending struggles early in the season. Carey Price was struggling a little bit. Then he kind of shaped up. So I think had they not started out with struggling a little bit at the beginning, I think they'd be right up there with the Jets and the Leafs. And so they're a tough team, and I think they're going to make a move to maybe bring in a big name that can help them kind of make a little bit of push just to guarantee a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to be gunning for the top spot anymore, but they're definitely going to try hard to just bust into the playoffs ahead of the Flames. I
do want to mention that Cole Caulfield. We mentioned him in the Belly Up Fantasy League, Belly Up Fantasy Live a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was Alex. Give credit to him for mentioning Cole Caulfield from the University of Wisconsin won the Hobie Baker Trophy as the best player in the country a couple nights ago. He actually started his first game for the Laval Rocket this week. First pro game, 2 goals, 1 assist, and wow. I think he could crack the Canadiens lineup. I'd probably say in the next week or two, and he could add some scoring punch to their team.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's bad news for my Calgary Flames because we're on the outside looking in right now. What are we, 6 points behind the Canadiens? Yeah. So that's bad news for me, but at least I, like in my intro, I say I'm a Flames fan with a Golden Knights backup plan. So, and the Golden Knights are looking pretty strong so far. So Colorado, though, I don't know. They're going to be tough to beat. Colorado.
Yeah, they just added Devin Dubnyk this weekend for goaltending depth. So that's a wise move, I think, on their part.
Yeah.
Don't really need it because they're plus 47 in the goal differential right now.
Yeah, they're scoring a lot of goals. They definitely are. Nathan McKinnon, in my mind, is probably top 3 in the league right now. So,
you get no disagreement from me, Jason.
So you mentioned being a Jets fan. Let's kind of move on to NFL talk a little bit. I was a Miami Dolphins fan growing up until Dan Marino retired with no championship, of course. And then I kind of got married and had kids and kind of wasn't paying much attention to many sports anymore. Hockey I stayed with, but
life happened. Let's put it that way. Life happened.
Life happened, yeah. And I kind of lost interest in the NFL. I watched here and there. Now I'm kind of getting back into it. I'm a Raiders fan because I have an obsession with Las Vegas.
I couldn't tell from the hat you were wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a backstory there, but that's for a whole new podcast. So I'm getting back into the NFL. I'm kind of a fan of the game as opposed to a fan of die hard for one specific team. So, but I like the Raiders. I like the Ravens. I like the Seahawks. Jets. I don't know. You're a Jets fan, right?
Sad to say, yes. I'm a New York Jets fan since I was 4 years old. And and I'll tell you the most arbitrary reason why I picked the Jets. So I'm 4 years old. And at this time, I'm living in New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey. I moved up to New York. When I was 7 years old. I liked the color green because my favorite Muppet was Kermit the Frog. So I figured, all right, Kermit the Frog is green. My favorite color is green. You need to pick a football team. Oh, the Jets wear green. I'll just follow them because they wear green. Here we are, still a Jets fan all these years later because of freaking Kermit the Frog.
Huh.
So I guess I want to start by first getting your views on what's happening in the CFL right now with the XFL CFL partnership.
Yeah.
What's your take on what we've heard so far, and where do you think it's actually going?
It's hard to say. A lot of it is just rumors, right? But it looks like the CFL is kind of in desperate need of some help. And I think that is undeniable, really. I don't know how I feel about a complete merger. I don't know if that would work. There's so much that needs to go in the two leagues, the XFL and the CFL, completely merging everything together. So I'm kind of worried about that as a CFL fan. The Canadians being able to play the game, the 3-down game, the Grey Cup, and you can call me somebody that's stubborn and set in their ways, but I just don't want to lose that. But at the same time, I know that they need to try to make something to make the business sustainable, right? It's not an easy decision, but they're at the table right now. We'll see what comes out of it. The latest I've sort of heard is if there could be sort of an interleague championship game. And if that's what ends up happening, and there's a partnership that way, and there's a good relationship between the leagues, and they have, one interleague game a year, I think that could be pretty fun to see where that could go. And I think it would engage Canadians, because you, the Stamps fan, me, the Rider fan, we can unite. I'm pretty sure that we would both be cheering for whoever is representing the CFL against the XFL team. I think it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you that the CFL definitely needs something to happen. And I think they probably needed it for a while. And I'm wondering, you mentioned that you think it would be hard to merge the two. And I'm wondering at the back of my mind if maybe that's what's taking so long to hear anything regarding what their plans are. Maybe they are hashing out how to merge the two. And I don't know. It's I'm quite confident in whatever is in the works, because The Rock's not a stupid guy. He's a businessman and he knows how to do business, as does as does the ex-wife there. I can never remember her name. What is her name?
Danny Garcia.
Right, Danny Garcia. Sounds like a football name.
It kind of does.
Garcia.
One that you know well in Calgary.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where they're going, but I'm at the point. I just saw a tweet, actually, a girl on there that said, I don't know what's going on with the CFL, but the longer we go without it, the more people are realizing that they can go on without it, which is kind of scary too.
Yeah, that's why it's critical for them to get on the field this year.
Yeah.
And they don't have the might and the power that the NFL does, which is actually just a machine. It's up there with the Apples and the Amazons of the world. Like, it's just a massive corporation with massive money behind it. The CFL doesn't have that, and that's part of the charm too. Like, it's a league that belongs to the fans, and I think that's why fans are so passionate right now, and they don't want to lose what they've always found, that it has belonged to them, and it's been their little league that fits in their little hand. And maybe that's the difficult part too, to see it change and morph into something that has not been what you loved your entire life. And that's part of my worry with this thing. But if the league can continue into the future, that's obviously the best thing to do, if it's the best thing to do, because we got these new stadiums in Winnipeg and Hamilton and Regina, and they can't just sit empty. Like, for kids, and I know they're community facilities in Regina, it's owned by, the city, and the kids play soccer there, but a facility of that caliber to be used for minor soccer, I mean, no offense to the kids playing soccer, but that thing needs to be in use. It's a beautiful facility. Just to have the Rough Riders, playing 4-down football, the thought of that kind of actually breaks my heart a little bit. So that's what's kind of been running through my mind. And what it seems like is that it's MLSE kind of pushing the narrative here. It's the organization that owns the Argos, and they have a ton of cash, but the Argos haven't been able to draw. That's the bottom line. They haven't been able to get anybody in the stands, so they want to make that a success. And I assume that they have a lot of clout when it comes to the CFL, because I don't know if there's ultimatums. I don't know if there's, we're out. We'll go join the NF or the XFL. We'll see how that goes. But there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and it's funny that the MLSE is controlling things. We say they're controlling things, that we think they are anyway.
Yeah.
Because they own one of the most difficult franchises in the CFL, one of the most struggling franchises in the CFL.
But it's like, how do you have a Canadian league without a franchise in Toronto? That's
exactly, yeah.
So that's why they're important.
Yeah, you raised a good point about the stadiums too. It kind of makes me wonder, when these cities and football clubs made the proposals for these stadiums, if you're in a league that's struggling to make ends meet, are you still going to make those proposals? So I wonder if the league's really been as bad as we think it has been.
Well, and the bottom line is that the CFL supports a lot of jobs at a lot of levels. I mean, you just go to a stadium on game day. I mean, there's the parking guys, there's the concession people, there's the local. Like, I got season tickets in Edmonton. the support that they show for minor football, the kids are there selling 50-50 tickets. Half of the proceeds from that massive 50-50 goes to minor football. Like, there's a lot of people that get supported by these games. And we talk about the Grey Cup, the hospitality industry. I've been to, 13 of these things, restaurants, hotels, like in November. That's big business because usually there's nothing happening in November. Who wants to go to Winnipeg in November? So I think there's a lot at stake here, and the CFL is really entrenched in the community across the country.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting scenario, and I definitely can't wait to see where the heck it's going. Now, what are your views on the XFL? Did you watch a lot of XFL when it was on, and what do you think?
I watched a few snaps of it. I've got nothing really against it. I think the more jobs that are available for football players is a good thing. I mean, there only so many players can make the NFL and continue that pro football dream. And the more jobs that are available, the better that can be. That being said, it seemed like at the beginning of 2020, they did everything the right way. It looked like they were ready to slowly build this thing. If they lost money for the first few years, they seemed okay with it. It looked to me like they had great marketing. The stadiums were set up great. The fans looked engaged. They were really into the sports gambling, so you could see the betting lines like on the score. I really thought that they were going to give this a legitimate run and have spring football in the United States, but when COVID comes, it just changes everything. And I think that's why we are where we are now. Anything and everything is on the table.
Yeah. So now on the flip side, if they're not going to merge and it ends up being a situation where I keep hearing the CFL is going to be a pipeline to the XFL, what do you think of that idea?
Oh, that's really interesting.
I mean, I don't think it changes much on our end because the CFL will still exist.
Yeah. Now, the only reason I think about is player safety. Like, could a guy play in, like, if the season stayed the same, could a guy play in the XFL and then play in the CFL? Because that's going to be hard on a football player. That's, I think, too much in one season. But if and I thought about that too, could they share players and share talent somehow? I don't know how that looks, but I would think that most XFL guys could play in the CFL and vice versa. So, I mean, I don't think it really hurts to explore something like that, but is there too much football to be played in one year? Because I mean, if I suited up for one game, I would need 3 months to recover. So, like, I know that these guys are well-oiled machines and they're athletes, but that partnership between players, I wonder if that is an option here to see where they're going, because they're going to be stars in either league. Do we want a star like Andrew Harris going to play for Seattle and they lose him out of Winnipeg? Just throwing it out there.
Right.
I don't know if they would, poach the top 5% of CFL players every year. I don't know if that helps the CFL at all,
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty good point. If anything, I think we could lose some valuable players by So that's
we do to the NFL. That's the way it goes. But it seems like both leagues, they sort of have a similar salary structure. I think for an American player, the XFL is definitely more attractive in the way that there's no currency exchange. They have a better chance at living closer to home. So those are a couple pluses for an American player. And I'm sure a Canadian player would want the opportunity to continue and play where they would like. So again, more jobs for players in North America. And they're always going to want that NFL opportunity as well. So if they can strut their stuff in the XFL or CFL, and what makes me wonder about possible players going back and forth is if they're playing two different rule sets, how will that kind of merge? I'm really fascinated to see, because I think the CFL needs to. They've seen the reaction online, and most diehard CFL fans, they want to kind of keep the game the way it is, because I don't believe the game's the problem. It's the stuff surrounding it. It's the marketing, the business, and all.
Yeah, or the non-marketing.
Right.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your podcast, Two and Out CFL podcast. How long have you guys been going now?
We started in 2015, so this is coming up on 6 years. One whole year with no football, so the last year has been a bit trying, but there has been content somehow
Yeah.
along the way. And it just keeps getting more and more fun. We did a live show on Zoom in November. We did a live show at a bar at the Grey Cup in Calgary in 2019, and we did a live show at the Grey Cup in Edmonton in 2018. So we've been having lots of fun keeping this thing going.
So now how did things work out doing a live show from a bar? I bet there's a lot of shenanigans going on there.
I don't know if anybody really cared what we had to say. There were drink specials and stuff, so that definitely helped. But we got kind of a gimmick going where I'll take on a CFL player in an eating contest, and so 2018, Zach Evans, a defensive lineman, played for Ottawa and Saskatchewan. I beat him in a pierogi eating contest, and then at Booker's Barbecue in Calgary, I took on Derek Dennis, now plays with Edmonton, longtime Stampeder, played for Saskatchewan too. We had a brisket eating contest. And I won that. And then in November, offensive lineman Peter Diakowski, we had a Timbit eating contest. There was some controversy there. There's going to have to be a rematch to declare me the undisputed champion of that. So if you listen to Two and Out, it's probably 40% football, 60% nonsense.
Yeah, I've listened to quite a few episodes, and I like your guys' style, how it's just casual and you just sit around and just shoot the shit.
Ty and I have known each other since the 8th grade. So
oh wow.
Yeah, so we go way back, and the show really how the stupid stuff has kind of grown is that in 2015 he bet me, and he just said this, that he would get a full Brazilian wax if the Ottawa Red Blacks won 12 games in 2015. Well, they won exactly 12 games. So we went to his name, Brazilian Ty, was born, and he got the job done at a salon in Winnipeg during Grey Cup week, and the rest is history.
I've never heard that story. And I've
that's why he's Brazilian Ty.
I've never heard that story, and I've kind of wondered a couple times why he's called that, but never thought to ask her. But now that I know,
Not much left of the imagination there, man.
Poor guy.
He was a champion through the whole thing. It was hilarious.
You got some video of that? No.
Well, I was in the room, and I had planned to have some video and some audio taken, but I'm telling you, we were like in a closet. There was no good angle for me to be. So I know Ty more than I ever thought I would.
Oh man. That is some craziness there.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it, but I mean, props to him for going through with the bet.
Yeah, no kidding. So where can people find you and the podcast on social media?
So I think Twitter is probably the best way to get a hold of us, at 2&OUT-CFL. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. Twitter is probably the most accessible way. We got a website, 2&OUT.ca, email through there. And the podcast is on just about every platform. We don't do the video thing, but you can Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. It's all over the place. You can find it by just searching 2&OUT-CFL podcast.
All right. And no plans to go on TikTok or any of that?
I'm too old for that, aren't I?
Hey, I'm 45. I'm on TikTok.
You on
I'm actually thinking about creating a Puck and Pigskin TikTok account just to promote some video and stuff like that.
Now, do you make TikToks or do you just watch?
I've made TikToks, yeah.
Oh.
All right. We are joined now by CFL legend, Calgary Stampeder and Montreal Alouette former player, Nick Lewis. Nick, welcome to the Puck and Pigskin podcast.
I appreciate the invite, man. And I just want to know how you figured out the Puck and Pigskin. That just,
well,
I like it.
There's so many sports podcasts out there that I was actually trying different names, and they were all taken. I was like, oh, I got to think of something. And I don't know how, but it just came into my mind.
The Puck and Pigskin.
Puck and Pigskin, yeah. So let me just kind of pump your tires a little bit here. You're 15 years in the CFL, 2004 CFL Rookie of the Year, two-time Grey Cup champion with the Stampeders, of course. Sorry, Trav. Five-time CFL West All-Star with the Stampeders, one-time CFL East All-Star, and holds the record for the most pass receptions at 1,051.
Yeah.
So your first 9 seasons, you were over 1,000 yards, and then in 2013, you suffered an injury After that, 2014 was a bit of a rough season for you, with your streak ending there, a tough streak to end and a tough injury to end that streak. Did the injury have anything that affected that 2014 season, or was there a change in the game? Yeah.
No, a lot. Well, being 31, having my first major injury, being pretty much injury free. I played with some torn cartilage in my ribs, torn ligaments in my knees, but I never really missed games. I never missed more than one game at a time. And for the most games that I missed in my career, it was usually the last game of the season. We had it wrapped up, and Huff wanted to rest us for the playoffs. So, me and Cope would miss a game near the end of the season. But that was the first time I ever had a major injury. And the fact that it was so bad, if my legs were smaller, it would have torn everything in my knee and everything in my ankle.
Man.
But due to the fact of having bigger legs, it only tore my fibula. It tore the ligament that runs from your knee to your ankle, and it tore every ligament in my ankle.
Yeah.
So they didn't think I was going to come back because of the force of the injury. The funny story is that they said I wouldn't jog for 4 months. That was August 17th that happened. I had surgery August 22nd. They said I wasn't going to jog until December. I was actually cleared 4 days before the Regina Western Final game, which Huff didn't believe. The doctor said, you don't have a chance to be cleared. And he gave me 2 weeks to do whatever I could. I started working out outside. I've been working out before, but I was so determined to play in that game, and they actually cleared me. And I told them through the bye week the whole time, because the last week of that season, Micah Johnson tore his ACL. DeMonte Bolden tore his MCL. So we're missing our starting 2D tackles. Marquay McDaniel got a high ankle sprain in BC, so he was out of that game. And I was like, this is exactly setting up for this comeback. It's going to electrify everybody. I told Dave to put me in the playbook. Told Huff, I'm going to be ready. The doctor kept saying it's impossible. It's impossible. But he's like, I'm going to let Nick think he can do something in 2 weeks. But I did it, and I went back on that Thursday before that Sunday game and did everything the doctor asked me to do. I had enough strength. I could do it. And he actually cleared me to play. I remember walking in telling Huff I could play. Huff laughed, told me I was lying. I said, go talk to Mikey, the trainer. Mikey said he is cleared. He comes up to me. He goes, they told me it was impossible that they were just letting you do it, that they was never going to clear you. And he said, you can play next week in the Grey Cup.
Wow.
And, never got that opportunity. So I almost felt like that was one that we missed. We had a great year, but, those 4 or 5 injuries against BC really tallied up. And I don't know if you remember, we started Justin Phillips as our starting D tackle. And Justin Phillips is about 230 pounds. And and if you notice, I think it was week 17 to wrap up the West, because we were with Sass, and that game was going to decide who won the West. And they rushed for like 30-something yards. But in that Western Final, they rushed for 287 yards, Corey Sheets and Darian Durant. And that was a huge factor. But, yeah, long story.
So on August 24th, 2017, you passed G. Roy Simon to become the CFL's all-time reception leader. Give us an idea how big that was for you, and did G. Roy actually reach out to you at all in any way?
Yeah, so he did a video. That day was crazy, first of all. But G. Roy did a video that they showed there, which was awesome. Me and G have been friends for a long time, and getting to work with him in BC a couple years ago was awesome, and getting to beat him in golf was even better. But yeah, he definitely reached out to me. But going into that day, I think I was 11 catches from the record, or 10 catches from the record. And the CFL had said they went back and watched every catch, and they missed a catch. So I actually became 1 catch closer to start that day. That was the first message I read going into that day. Hey, you're one catch closer. I said, how many yards did I get on that catch? They said none. I said, no, that's not possible. How do you find the 1 catch that they didn't, and it's no yards?
So I got to ask you, when you're in a game like this, you're 10 catches away or whatever from the record, do you guys was it discussed to get Nick the ball a little more the closer you got to the record, or is that not coming to play?
No, not at all. I knew we had back-to-back home games. My mom was going to be there for both. So we wasn't pushing to do anything. We were playing Winnipeg. We were down. We made a big comeback late in that game. And, me and Darian just found a lot of comfortability towards each other. Like, Darian watched me play. He's like, man, I just feel like I just get you the ball. You're going to make the play, and then everything. And if you remember that drive, I'd called a pass for a first down, I think. And then I caught another pass on that drive. And then it was 3rd and like 6 or whatever it was, and I caught the pass for the first down to extend the drive to put us in the field goal range. And so it really just wasn't getting me the ball. It was really just how it was just playing out. Darren felt comfortable, getting me the ball in those situations on a 2nd and 10. I made the first down a couple times. And then it came out to that 3rd down. And I was actually rubbing for someone else coming across. They went to a zone. Darren found me. And so, yeah, wasn't even supposed to come to me, but we made it work. Well, going into the Grey Cup in 14, I thought that was my last game. I was preparing myself for that to be my last game. I was actually talking to Huff about potential coaching opportunities. Corey Chamberlain called me about coming to SAS as a receiver coach. So I was exploring other options, and Jim Pop called me. I'd seen Fred Stamps at a mutual friend's birthday party in Houston, and we were talking about playing together. So I guess he called Pop, and Pop called me, and, we made it work, and I went to Montreal. In the first year, if you notice, all my yards come in the last 8 games. The first 8 games, I didn't really get the ball. They didn't know how to get me the ball really and do things, but we played a game in SAS where I think I had 5 catches for 86 yards in the fourth quarter. And the next week they come in and they see, like, we got to get you the ball better. And from that point on, I started getting better. And then going into that second season, S.J. Green got hurt the first or second game of the year. So it opened up a lot of opportunities for me to kind of lead that team and get the ball. And I had the most catches I've ever had at 102, I think, from 6 different quarterbacks that year. And yeah, so it's more about opportunities and getting the ball. But definitely it took over a year to recover from that injury.
So a lot of your catches were pretty nice little routes down up the middle there, and I'm sure you've taken your share of nearly death-defying catches. What's the hardest that you've been hit, do you think?
Tyrese Abear. I ran it out and up. Danny Wimprine, our third string, was playing because Hanka got hurt, then Jason Gessler got hurt. Wimprine comes in, we're playing Ottawa back in, I think, 2005 or 6, and yeah, ran it out and up. Danny Wimprine, I was so open, he floated the ball to me. And as I see Kyrie kind of bearing down, I kind of jumped to catch it, but he just hits me so hard. And everything on my right side, the lights just started flickering. I remember I jumped up, started celebrating. Cope and Rambo's like, you can't hurt the pit bull. And I'm celebrating, and I walk back to the huddle. And I'm just like, man, he got me good. And everything on the right side is just flickering up and down. I get to the sideline, I talk to Pat Clayton, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but everything on this side is just flickering up and down. I look at the lights, and I just see everything moving. He goes, you all right? I said, yeah, I'm fine. Other than that, I feel good. And probably about 8 minutes later in the game, down near the red zone, probably just crossing the red zone, run another out and up, same play. He hits me again. I catch it. He hits me at like the 2-yard line, and the flicker went away. So I always like to say Kyrie's hit so hard that he can give you a concussion and take it away at the same time.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. I just want to say one more thing. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame. I know during the height of the Rough Riders Stampeders rivalry, I was a bit of a loudmouth on Twitter. Mr. Nick Lewis blocked me on Twitter, and a few years ago, you gave me a second chance and unblocked me on Twitter. So thank you for that. I appreciate your insight every day.
Indeed, hey man, it's good. It's good. I always believe that you guys should be able to say what you feel and do. But for me, it's all about respect. And at the end of the day, I'll go back and forth with anyone as long as we're respectful about it. And it's all good. We live and we learn.
Yeah, we do.
That's right.
I'm in SAS right now. I'm about to go train some kids with Mac Henry and Charleston Hughes and Derek Moncrief and
awesome.
Those guys for this camp. It's a free camp out here in SAS that we're doing. So
sounds like a terrible weekend.
It's all about the kids. It's all about the kids.
Players want to play in the best league in the world, and they will play where they are either drafted or acquired. And so to say that Johnny wants out, certainly this year, I'd imagine Johnny would rather play for a contender, but I don't think he wants out. And I don't think any player, save for maybe Eric Lindros back in the early 90s, has the right to ever say, I'm not playing there, I'd rather play here. And we've seen it before, certainly. There's some spoiled, rotten millionaires. But no, I don't think Johnny Gaudreau wants out of Calgary, or Connor McDavid until this year wants out of Edmonton, or Austin Matthews wants out of Toronto. I think these guys are privileged to play. I think they know it, and I think their paychecks speak to that. And so, no, I think that's a lot of fan hoopla about nothing. I think Johnny Gaudreau will play where he's told, where he's asked to play, and I think he'll respect the fans that pay his salary.
So just going to run down here. You played college football, UCLA for the Bruins. Interesting fact, my cousin and me, when we were kids, we used to actually pretend that we played for the Bruins as well, which is weird for kids growing up in Regina, Saskatchewan. But our parents found us some UCLA sweatpants and sweatshirts from somewhere. I have no idea where, so we always pretended we played for the Bruins.
That's random.
So you're drafted by the New York Jets in the 4th round in 2014, and of course we got the draft going on right now. What's it like being in an NFL draft?
It's just a lot of anxiety, really, anticipation, and just, you're not knowing, and just, it's just a bunch of unknowns because you don't know. You hear things, you hear, oh, you're second round, your third round, or your fifth round. You hear those things, but sometimes you go way lower than expected, and sometimes you go way higher than expected. So it's just crazy because you hear so many things from different teams. Oh, we like you, this and that, this and that. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen. So unless you're one of those, top guys, like, like surefire top 5 picks or, first round picks, you don't really know where you're going to end up and what round you're going to end up in. Because I've seen guys have second round grades end up in a, fifth, sixth round, and guys with fifth, sixth round grades end up in the third round. So it's just a bunch of unknowns. That's the biggest takeaway from it from my experience.
Yeah. So as a guy coming out of college in the NFL draft, was there a team that you wanted to go to at that time?
At that time, that was 7 years. I'm trying to think. I don't think I had a specific team. I know
No.
probably one of the things I was thinking at that time was I just want to play with just a good quarterback because I never really played with just a pure passing quarterback at any level of my career. So that's probably what I was hoping for.
Yeah. So then you suffered a shoulder injury then, and were waived by the Jets the next year. Then signed with Jacksonville practice squad, then released, and you went through this a few times.
Yeah.
The NFL is a weird beast in how they do things with the signing to practice squads and releasing and stuff. It's a lot different than the CFL, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I mean, it changes weekly, honestly, sometimes daily. Sometimes they'll bring in a guy on, Monday, and he'll practice Tuesday or Wednesday, and then you won't see him the rest of the week, and you just wonder like what happened, like, and then it'll be a whole new guy, like, so it's crazy. It's so much. It's like so much anxiety on a daily basis for a practice squad player because any day could be your last day, and you never know when it's coming because they might just have a team need somebody on the active roster might get hurt, a linebacker, and they need to bring in another linebacker. So they're like, well, they'll take probably most likely the newest guy they sign, and then just get rid of him. So you could have literally been there for a day or two, and then you're gone. So it's crazy, definitely.
I guess you signed with the New England Patriots practice squad at one point. Now in your mind, you're thinking, man, I'm going to be playing with Tom Brady. What went through your mind when you signed with the practice squad for the Patriots?
That's the main thing was just I get to meet Tom Brady. Like I get to meet this legend, and that was like the main thing. And then, but that was an example of what I was talking about. Like I got let go within a week. I was there a week, and I got let go because they needed another linebacker. So they got rid of me to bring in a linebacker, and the linebacker that they brought in was a guy that drafted with me with the Jets. So it was super ironic. Like wow. So now I'm getting replaced by my former draft classmate 3 years later. So yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So then in 2018, you signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now the biggest fan base of any sports team in the world, probably. What did you? What were your thoughts when when the Riders came after you?
Well, honestly, I was like, where is that? I had never heard of that place
You had no
before.
idea.
I had no idea where it was. I mean, obviously I knew it was in Canada, but like most, like people that's not too, informed on Canada, all we know is the like Vancouver and the Toronto. That's all we really know. So it's like we don't really know anywhere else. So to hear Saskatchewan, I'm just like, wow, where is that? And I looked it up, found out where it was, and then and I was just happy to have the opportunity to play football again. So I was all for it, and I couldn't wait to get up there. And then when I got up there, I'm just like, wow, it's really a different place.
Yeah. So when did you arrive in Saskatchewan? Was it winter or summer or spring?
No, summer, yeah, May
Okay.
2018, right before training camp up in Saskatoon.
So in 2019, you had a hell of a season, 72 catches for 1,334 yards. CFL All-Star, CFL West All-Star. So tell me what it's like playing in the new stadium in front of all those fans. Have you played in the new stadium?
Yeah,
You
it
would have played in
was,
the
I
new.
think the first year was 27. I played there the second
Yeah, you
season. That
played
was my
there.
first year. Yeah, so yeah, it's crazy. It's always packed. Normally, like maybe if we play like a random Thursday night game, it might not be packed because people have work and stuff. But usually, if it's on the weekend, it's going to be packed, and those fans are crazy. You know, they come out there and they support every game, and after the games, no matter how long it takes me to get ready, there's going to be like at least 30, 40 people outside still waiting, to get your autograph, take pictures, talk to you. So yeah, I really love the fans. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming because, like, especially my first year, because I wasn't used to that, so I had to get used to it. But it's all love, and I love the passion that they have, and it definitely helps us on game day when we're playing at home, just having their energy.
Yeah, no kidding. My cousin and I used to be big CFL fans when I lived in Regina with him, and we were those kids that always hung out at Taylor Field. And you don't know Taylor Field, but
Nah, I don't know Taylor Field.
that's what the Riders
I've
used to
heard
play.
things about it. I've heard things about it from players like Naaman Roosevelt. He was there for a couple of years. He played at Taylor Field for like I think 1 or 2 years. And tell
Yeah,
me stories
Roosevelt.
about it. He said he used to rock the same. Like they pack in every game, but it was just like sometimes it was just I guess sometimes on the field level it was like a hill on the field. So it was just he said they definitely need a new stadium, but he definitely has some good memories there.
So you mentioned that you're down in Cali, doing some training. I just gonna pop up a little video. This is a video you shared on your story yesterday of you
Yeah.
training. This is some intense training.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if
Yeah,
everybody
that
trains
was
like this, but I could probably barely
it's
do that on
definitely
2 feet, and you're doing it on 1.
Yes, that was
Like,
this
that
guy
right there
Mike
is crazy. What's that ball weigh?
yeah, Mike Nguyen just 20 pounds. Yeah, just 20 pounds.
Just 20 pounds. That's nothing.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
some
he
intense
definitely challenges
balance
me
training.
daily basis. Yeah. That's one of his main things, is core strength and balance. Like we do some form of it pretty much every day. And
And then
I used to because I wasn't so good at it at first though. So it's definitely a
I also
product of a
got.
lot of hours.
All right, now I'm joined by 2006 CFL West All-Star, 2007 Grey Cup champion, Mr. Matt Dominguez from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I am doing great. It's a little chilly and ugly here, but not bad. How's the weather there?
Yeah. I'm not envying you at all with that. It's great.
You're in Saskatchewan, right?
Well, I was in Saskatchewan. I'm now in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Texas, yes, sir. North Dallas.
It's probably much nicer there than here, then.
Definitely.
So you played your college football at Sam Houston State in Huntsville, Texas. Tell me what it's like playing college football in Texas, because I know college football is a huge deal in the States, let alone Texas. What's it like playing college ball in Texas?
It's I always liken it to in Saskatchewan, it's hockey. In Canada, it's hockey. It's the primary sport. And in Texas, it's the primary sport times 10. Everybody goes and has their team and supports their team. And so, I went to a FCS school, Sam Houston, and yeah, we were good. Everybody's at the games, and it was awesome to be able to play, at that kind of level in the Southland Conference.
So watching movies like Friday Night Lights and stuff like that, is that what it's really like?
So it's it on the high school level, it's really like that. I actually would say that it's that now it's more it's probably better now. There's in my high school when we played our rival, there was almost 7,000 people at our high school game, right?
Wow.
And when I was coaching in Regina, the first high school game I coached, it might have been 200 people at the game. And it was like a culture shock to me. And so, but now because well, not COVID times, but prior to COVID times, everybody would pack the stadiums to watch football. It'd just be high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to high school in Regina at Miller, and at games they would have a couple hundred people maybe.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Yeah, I coached at Riffle. And I coached at Riffle for 3 years.
Oh, boo! No.
Yeah.
You signed with the Riders in 2003, rack up over 1,000 yards. Then you went to the Jets in 2004. Cut at the end of training camp. What was it like going to an NFL club? Like, I know they do things a lot different down there when they kind of sign you to practice rosters and where they're allowed to release you whenever. And
yeah, it was a really good experience. A bunch of guys vying for jobs, really, right? You're there auditioning for a job, and so to be one of to possibly be one of the people that can make that team. I went to Saskatchewan for the whole purpose was to get back to the NFL, and so I got my opportunity, and it just kind of did not work out because of
in 1 mile. Keep left to I-35 north.
I had already played so much at Denver that could be put back on the practice roster.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions. You mentioned there, was it always the goal to go to the NFL or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I love Saskatchewan. It was great. A lot of great things happened, but I never grew up wanting to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I grew up wanting to play in the NFL, right? And the Riders have always treated me well, but the goal at that time was to get back to the NFL.
So at that time, did you even know about Saskatchewan? Because I just talked to Shaq Evans, and Shaq, when he was signed with the Riders, he had no idea where Saskatchewan even was.
I might have had maybe one step further than him. I knew about the CFL. I knew about Toronto and Calgary only because of Doug Flutie, and I had heard of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but I couldn't tell you one player, one area. I couldn't tell you anything about the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
So tell me about the first time when you arrive in Saskatchewan. Is it a shock?
Well, my transition was a little bit different. I had just gotten married a month prior.
Oh, I think there we go.
Me and my wife drove from Texas to Regina, and as we drove in, it was like, okay, there's a Walmart, there's a McDonald's. Okay, I think we can make it. I think it'll be okay.
As long as you know where Walmart and McDonald's is, you're good.
Exactly. Look, I told my wife, like, that was one of the most reckless decisions we made because I could have been cut. Like, I could have, anything could have happened. I didn't make the team. Now we got to drive all the way back.
Chances are, if you're getting drafted by an NFL team, you can probably make it in CFL. So, what's your favorite memory from playing in the CFL? Obviously, the Grey Cup. Besides the Grey Cup, what's your favorite memory from the CFL, like a play or whatever?
I had a play that ended up. Well, I guess one of the favorite memories of me was we had a game in 2007 where it was rain delayed. All right, we were playing against Edmonton at home at the old Taylor Field, and a storm came in. It was lightning, and it was rain delayed, and we went back into the locker room as it continued to rain, and the lights went out, the power went out in the whole place.
Yeah, I remember that game.
There you go. So we came back out. We were losing. We came back out, and I had a big game. I think it was like 170 yards or something.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning. We came back and we won the game. But the memory that I have was when we came back out, it was like half the stands were still there, and I thought that was awesome. I thought that was awesome that most people stayed for the game. They didn't care about the weather, and they saw the big comeback. And I actually met people later on that had left and were sick that they didn't stay, because that's like a history game. You'll never get a game like that back.
Never leave. You never leave.
No, you never leave.
Yeah, that's the Rider fan base for you. They'll sit in the rain, and they're everywhere. It's me as a Stampeders fan, sorry to say, but it's annoying.
Nobody's perfect, dude.
Okay, joining me now is one half of the Slapshot Sweethearts, Shannon Walsh. Welcome to Puck and Pigskin podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. You guys were actually one of the first podcasts on the Belly Up Network that I got familiar with. And you were tops on my list to be a guest, but then people kept adding to my list, and you guys were kind of busy there growing your podcast. So now's the perfect time.
Yeah, we started right when the season started, so it was like poor timing for everyone trying to get those things scheduled and all that. But excited to hop on.
Yeah. Now's a perfect time actually, because playoffs are about to start. And I want to talk a little bit about you first, have my fans kind of get to know you. From what I've gathered watching you on the Rod Peterson show and your other episodes, you are a Bruins, Patriots, Celtics, and Sox fan. Grew up half an hour south of Boston. Is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up like barely a mile away from Gillette. So right in Foxborough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I drove by Foxborough by Gillette when I need to go anywhere. If I needed to get on the highway, I had to drive by. So, when you now I live in Washington, D.C., and it takes us like an hour or so to get to Landover and FedEx Field. And you almost take advantage of the fact that you're driving by a stadium all the time. And when I was younger, all of the Bob Kraft has put a huge Patriots Place thing there with all those shops and everything. So you can't see the stadium much anymore. But I remember when you could just drive by and see the stadium, and you like forget how great that is when you're driving by it every day. So it's cool. But yeah, huge diehard Boston fan. That's since I've lived in DC, I've become a little bit softer on some of the DC sports, but not as the Bruins are going into this Capital Series.
No doubt. So when did you leave the Boston area?
Yeah, so I went to college down in DC, so about 6 years ago. I graduated 2 years ago, and then obviously lived down here for 4 years for college as well.
Okay. And so now you have a soft spot for the Washington teams. So Capitals, obviously, Redskins. Washington football team.
So actually, the Washington football team is probably my favorite of the options. When the Patriots didn't make the playoffs and the Washington football team did, I was a diehard Washington team. I was so excited. They were close to beating the Bucks in that first round game, and we were screaming at the TV just like it was a Patriots game. It was incredible. And the Landover's in the middle of nowhere. FedEx Field is a horrendous stadium, but it's so much fun to go out there because it's again in the middle of nowhere. The drinks are cheap. Everyone is tailgating for fun because there's not that many Washington football team fans. So it's interesting, especially because Capital One Arena and Nationals Park are both right downtown. So it's an entirely different experience. You really get to see the full DMV versus just right in the city.
Mm-hmm. What about the Nationals? You follow baseball, the Nationals at all?
I follow baseball, but I follow the AL East, not
okay.
So I'll go to I've been to a Nationals game. That's actually the only sport that I've been to since COVID has happened, just because, you can get Nationals tickets pretty cheap. It was a Nationals versus Diamondbacks game, so I won't say that I had any passion about what was going on there, but it was nice to go to the stadium. I mean, it's a nice stadium, and it's right next to Audi Field, which is where DC United plays, and that's a brand new stadium. It's only 2 or 3 years old, so that stadium's beautiful.
So when it comes to baseball, you're watching mostly Boston.
Yeah, mostly Boston. Red Sox Yankees is always interesting. The Red Sox are looking far better than I expected them to this year, so that's always good.
And so did you follow the NFL draft at all?
Yeah. So I watched the draft, at least the first round. I watched till the end. I followed it on Twitter, but I didn't watch the drafts or the rounds after that.
Oh God, nobody could watch all the rounds. You'd age.
Right.
Thing takes like 3 weeks. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, NHL playoffs starting up. So you guys, of course, Slapshot Sweethearts, your main focus is obviously hockey. Megan is she the Penguins fan? I think she's the Penguins fan, right?
Yeah. So Megan has some interesting alliances. She grew up a Penguins fan, but she was a huge Marc-Andre Fleury fan. So when the Vegas expansion draft happened, she didn't shift allegiances, but she grew an allegiance for the Golden Knights, which is interesting. And then she also, when we met in college down in Washington, D.C., so she also has a loose alliance with the Capitals. I mean, obviously the Capitals and the Penguins are a huge rivalry. So she really likes Tom Wilson, which is, a separate issue. But, if the Capitals are not playing the Penguins, she roots for the Capitals as well.
Yeah. So speaking of Tom Wilson, what's your view of the whole Tom Wilson incident and puny little fine that he got.
I mean, which one? Like, I mean, I understand why they did it the way they did. They look at, when the play is dead, they look at those types of incidents different than if it's during gameplay. But it doesn't make it any less frustrating as a fan. I mean, they have strict rules. They don't consider prior history until there's a bad play to look at. And as frustrating as that is, I mean, Sidney Crosby did the same hit the next game and they didn't review it, but it's because of Sidney Crosby that fans aren't mad about it. It's just because it's Tom Wilson that everyone gets riled up about it, including myself. So it's frustrating to see, but it's also just the way that they do that adjudication. There's like not a ton you can do about it. They don't consider what a player has done in the past until the hit is actually egregious enough to look at. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, yeah, don't get me wrong. Tom Wilson, I'm sure, is a great guy off the ice, but on the ice, yeah, a whole
He is,
different
and
story.
that's part of the controversy for why the Capitals players defend him, why DC fans defend him, is because he is a huge individual in the DC community. He is always doing charity events. He's always donating money and raising money for whatever local charity it may be. And there's a ton of poverty in DC, so that's really important, and it really is a sticking point for an organization that does not have as much national recognition as like, an LA team may or other teams that get fans outside of their market, where DC is primarily DC local fans. So he really does make an impact in the community, but then you see him on the ice and he gets, absolutely accosted by out of market NHL fans.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm wondering if the reason it surprised me that he didn't get a suspension was because they were playing again the very next night, and the league had to know that with Tom Wilson in the lineup the next night, shit was going to go down. So that's another reason I was surprised that he didn't get at least a 1 game suspension just for that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I didn't watch that game live. I opened Twitter just to see how it was going and saw the 6 Capitals players in the box, and I was like, well, I'm not turning that on. Like there's no point in me watching like their 7th line forward. Like how many people do you have to have in a box before you got to go into your like depths of the locker room? And so I was like, I don't want to watch this. It's obviously like a game of, like, I don't even know how to say it. Like they weren't playing for the win. They were playing for like whatever happened the night before, which makes sense. But at this point, like the Rangers were already eliminated. I don't need to see them fight over Tom Wilson. Like I know what's going on with Tom Wilson. Everyone knows what's going on with Tom Wilson. And I understand why the players need to fight that out. And I actually was just recording with another show that was asking me what Tom Wilson's impact is going to be on the Bruins Capitals series. And I think it's interesting for 2 different reasons. One, the Capitals have Chara, so that's like a separate emotional thing. But Tom Wilson, prior to the Panarin-Bubnevich issue, took out Brandon Carlo for 2 months on a bad hit.
That's right.
Night. Yeah, he only came back like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Brandon Carlo, again, was out, and he was a big significance on our blue line, and now he'll be back for the playoffs. So the Bruins have a lot of emotion there, particularly because Tom Wilson was only fined. He, again, was not suspended. And so that's going to be a huge impact. And then the Bruins don't necessarily have a Tom Wilson or a veteran enforcer. They've got a couple like 4th line guys that like get healthy scratch depending on the opponent, but they can't healthy scratch them against the Capitals because they need someone to stand up to Tom Wilson. And there's only a couple guys on this roster that can do that, particularly when you consider that Chara's on the other side of the ice. And when playoff Chara gets turned on, you're screwed.
Yeah, I personally, I see the Capitals, although Taylor Hall is going to make a big impact in the playoffs, I think. And of course, Marchand is always turned on in the playoffs, and it's going to be a great series, I think. I'd like to see Tom Wilson pound Brad Marchand. That's about. Sorry if that's a soft spot for you.
No, I mean, many people will. He was my favorite player. When you're like, you want to be the person that picks the player or whomever the brand or show people don't like. So when I was younger and I started getting into hockey, I was like, well, I want to be Brad Marchand's fan because no one likes him. But then he grew out of his pest thing, and now he's one of the best left wingers in the league. And I was like, well, I got this jersey when he was getting suspended every like 3 or 4 games. So I've had it for a long time, and I've liked Brad Marchand for a long time, and I really appreciate how he's been able to develop his game from he still pisses people off on the ice all the time, but a lot of it is because he's so skilled and so fast and so small, and he bends over. He's got like a hunchback when he skates, but he makes himself so small that he literally is a rat on the ice because he's like weaving through everything. It's incredible.
Was it you or was it Megan that had the thing with the Jersey Devil? That was you, wasn't it?
Well, we did a mascot ranking when we first started the show. I thought the New Jersey.
Who won that, by the way? Who won that? I can't remember.
The Devil, because the New Jersey.
It was the Devil, right?
A massive social media following. Gritty does too, but the Devil actually like retweeted our stuff, and so he got a ton of votes. It's surprising how much the Devil has of a following, though, because it's kind of a weird mascot, like this guy with a weird goatee and a six-pack. So I was like, this guy's creepy. But there's whatever interns in New Jersey are running that social media account are incredible because they have so much engagement. Their TikTok, it has a ton of followers. Apparently, I don't use TikTok, but Megan says, and they're doing really well. So.
Yeah, it's weird because when you guys did that mascot ranking, I actually started because you were posting their Twitter handles on Twitter, so I started following some of them. It's crazy the following some of them have. I couldn't believe it, and how active they are on social media.
It depends on the mascot. So I think part of what makes a mascot social media successful is that you do engage with your fans. Like that's the key of being a mascot, right? Like you're doing pictures, you're doing photo ops, you're throwing T-shirts to fans. The same goes on social media. You know, you comment, you like reply, you message your fans. That's why the Devil does so well, because someone is sitting on that account, following, retweeting, replying to all the New Jersey fans. Granted, the New Jersey Devil market is smaller than like the Blackhawks market, but Tommy Hawk from the Blackhawks has like way less followers because they don't reply, they don't message, they don't like, they don't, they don't respond to any of that. So it really shows once I say you as in like the people running these mascot accounts, you got to think of it as the same way you engage with fans at a game you do on social media, which is like how you have to run a social media account anyway, but particularly for a mascot, since that's the entire purpose of a mascot. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one I noticed since I started following a lot of them, I think the one I noticed the most on Twitter all the time is Stinger from Columbus.
Yes. Yeah, the big ones. So Victory Green is a big one in terms of the ones that actually engage with their fans. Victory Green, obviously the Devil, Stinger, Stanley Sea Panther is not bad. Gritty does sometimes, but he's got 2 million followers. So
so yeah, I guess what I'll do now is maybe just get you to make your bold Stanley Cup prediction. You guys have a bracket going on, right? If I'm not mistaken.
So they haven't. Tonight is the final game, I believe, that dictates the seeding because the West is still up for grabs. Once that is finalized, the NHL is going to post their bracket challenge, like official picks you can make. But our podcast, Slapshot Sweethearts, has a league that you can join and make your bracket picks. And it says no prize in there, but we're doing a prize giveaway for the winner on social media. So if you follow us on social media, we'll have a big prize for whoever happens to pick the most accurate Stanley Cup bracket.
Yeah, Sportsnet actually has their bracket already open, but in the Vegas and the Colorado spots, they just have blanks. I mean, people have already made their picks, though, because it's kind of obvious Vegas is going to win whoever they play, and Colorado is probably going to win whoever they play. I think that's pretty obvious, but you never know. Anything could happen. Curious about your guys' standpoint regarding the Seattle Kraken look, the Seattle Kraken logo, the arena, the whole experience. Are you guys into it or not so much?
Well, Clark is off screen anyways. I think I know exactly what he's going to grab. That tells you all you need to know about what
he's going to grab a jersey. He's got a shirt.
There it is. I think you had that from the minute they announced the logo. Hey, Clark, as soon as you could order it.
This was a basically day one. They announced it, and there was a fundraiser going on where they were raising money for inner city kids in Seattle. And I was like, yeah, I'm jumping on board. I like this team already. I'm on. I'm in. So I love it all. I think we haven't even seen the most of it yet. I think with Jerry Bruckheimer being one of the owners and just the exciting, it's such a passionate city in terms of look at all their other sports teams, the Seahawks, the Sounders, when the Mariners were good, it seems like 30 years ago, but that was exciting times. So Seattle, I think in general, is a great sports city, and to get a hockey team, I think they're going to get right behind it. And I just can't wait to see what they come up with. I feel like the Kraken has such a potential for this mysterious, you never know what's going on. And there's so much suspense with, a Kraken coming out of the water to grab you. And I feel like the comparisons they can make and the kind of translation they can make into a game day presentation, I just hope they knock it out of the park. I'm looking forward to seeing all the stuff they come up with. Again, with Jerry Bruckheimer, one of the biggest movie producers in the world, I think he's going to have a field day with this and just have a ton of fun.
Yeah, no doubt. When I saw the videos that they produced and that they were putting out on social media, I thought, geez, this is some quality stuff here. And now that you mentioned Jerry Bruckheimer being a part of it, I was like, oh, okay, yep, that's why.
Yeah, and they got a lot of the local celebrities involved. You saw it with the expansion draft, getting Marshawn Lynch doing some stuff and getting a bunch of Seahawks players and a bunch of the Sounders players.
Probably could have given him a tutorial on how to pronounce some names, though. That might have been. Jonas Dunscully.
That was
that's an interesting name. I didn't see him on the.
They could have found I know Sean Kemp is a very huge man, but they could have found him a shirt that fit, for goodness sakes. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, they broke out all the huge stars. Hey, Macklemore.
yeah, exactly. So I'm
Oh,
looking forward
man.
to seeing how they can translate that into, a season-long fan experience. And I think those fans are going to get real lucky with that team.
So, are you happy with the Leafs right now? What they did, what they didn't do? What are your thoughts on the Leafs going into the camp?
Well,
Camp's going to be starting soon, isn't it?
Yeah, like sooner than you think. I think at the
Yeah.
mid to end of this month. So like we're getting pretty
Yep.
close. Early
Yeah.
September, I think at the latest. I saw preseason games are at the end of September. So like we're getting there. But Toronto was dealing with a really hard situation this offseason where obviously Zach Hyman kind of wants some money. And rightly so. The guy's been heart and soul of the team for a few years now. So he definitely earned every cent that he got. And then there was all that drama around whether they would sign and trade him or not. And I'm kind of okay with the fact that they didn't, because I think Edmonton was undervaluing the help that was being offered to them. And at this point, I'd rather, that maybe stand their ground and, push for some value on this than get a throwaway draft pick at some point. So overall, losing Zach Hyman's going to hurt. But what they were able to do with his money that they didn't have to pay him was go out and get, 4 or 5 forwards that fit different roles that they really needed. And we'll start with Nick Ritchie. A lot of Boston fans I talked to didn't like Nick Ritchie by the end of the time he was there. He's a bit of a slower skater given his size, but I think what he brings to the Leafs is something that they haven't had, which is, one of those just kind of bowling ball forwards that goes around and just knocks everybody over and has the ability to kind of disrupt the game where, they've had Wayne Simmons this past year, but he's not an intimidating force. He's just one of those players you don't want to play against. There's a difference, I feel like. So Nick Ritchie, I think, comes in a middle six role on the team and can go around and throw some hits. Then they'll go out and, just kind of pick up some smaller pieces here and there that kind of fit a bunch of different needs. They've needed a penalty killing center for years. And they go out and get David Kampf from the Chicago Blackhawks, who's one of the better defensive centers for his age and for what he was doing there in the league. So that's exciting. He's not going to score a bunch of goals. He's not going to put up a bunch of numbers, but he fills a really badly needed role and helps our penalty kill. Andre Kasha is a guy, again, from Boston. He's had injuries his whole career. He's kind of a head case. We're not sure how his health is going to be, but when he is healthy, he's effective. So if they can keep him healthy, that'll be good. Then they just got, again, just a bunch of little guys here and there that I'm curious to see how some of them are going to fit into the roster. Their defense was pretty much all under contract as it was. And then the big fish that they went out and got was Peter Mrazek for the net, and him and Jack Campbell as a tandem is really intriguing because Mrazek's been a really good tandem goaltender throughout his entire career. I saw it in Detroit. He actually took over there for a couple seasons when they were still actually pretty good, and he had some really good numbers. Then they became really bad, but his numbers stayed pretty good. And then he ran into some health issues, of course. So again, he's one of those guys where I think if he stays healthy, he's going to drastically improve what Toronto was getting. I'm not saying I hate Freddie Anderson, but his numbers don't lie. He was having some struggles near the end of his time in Toronto. So if they can improve on that, and then Jack Campbell keeps his form from last year, he had some great numbers last year and provided some huge help in that. So I like it. I like it overall. I mean, I'm not blown away. I'm not running through the streets screaming, but this wasn't an offseason where they were going to add a huge name. It was an offseason where they needed to fill a bunch of needs, and I think they were able to do it for now. And we'll see. It's not over yet, and there's still a trade deadline that they have to load up for. So we'll see what happens throughout the season. But overall, I'm decently happy.
Clark, I cannot believe you forgot Michael Bunting. Come on, man.
Do you want me to name everybody they signed? Because they
well, I mean, you already did. So
no, Michael Bunting, Curtis Gabriel, Michael Amadio. Like I didn't name all those guys. I didn't want to waste a bunch of your time. I know there's a lot.
I think they got a new usher too, and somebody at the concession stand.
Yeah, they overhauled their entire concession staff. Absolutely, they was desperately needed.
The nachos are going to actually have cheese on them this year.
I know they were
out in Toronto.
They were lacking.
What about you, Max? Obviously, the big news in Nashville was Pekka Rinne retiring. So, what are your thoughts on Nashville right now as they stand?
Oh man, I tell you what, how much time do we got? No, I'm just kidding. You know what?
I'm looking around for the Kleenex for you, Max. I can't find it.
This is I've dubbed a new term for the Nashville Predators this coming season as it currently stands, and we are going to be competitive-ish. This has been an off season where it's been an aggressive retool for David Poile. Obviously, Pekka Rinne retiring, it's the end of an era, and UC Saros has been handed the mantle, and unfortunately in a bit of a contract situation right now where he's filed for arbitration. And I'm really hoping the team does right by him and acknowledges that the only reason we got into the postseason last year is solely on his back alone. So I'm hoping that contract situation gets resolved because it's clearly the number one order of business that David Poile needs to get to now that we're past the entry draft and into free agency. So I'm really hoping that contract situation gets cleared up. Obviously, it's been a couple of long-term guys that were a big part of our core going into that 2017 Stanley Cup final run that are no longer with the team. Victor Arvidsson, a mainstay for 7 seasons. He gets shipped out to LA as he didn't seem to figure into the expansion protection plans of the team, pick up a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick, utilizing that 2nd-round pick to move up in the draft and pick up Zachary Leroux, as we already talked about, and then have a 3rd-round pick for next season. And then comes the big bombshell of Ryan Ellis being dealt to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Nolan Patrick and Philippe Myers, and then promptly flipping Nolan Patrick to the Vegas Golden Knights for their first ever draft pick in Cody Glass. I tell you what, it's an off season of committing to a youth movement. And the thing that a lot of people I think are failing to recognize with the Nashville Predators, that again, I dubbed the title of competitive-ish, is they dressed the most rookies in the entire league last year with 11. They had some serious injuries throughout the entire season to some major pieces. Ryan Ellis missed time. Roman Josi missed time. Matt Duchene missed a lot of time. Philip Forsberg was out for a number of weeks. Like, there was a lot of pressure on these young guys in the system to really develop quickly in a time where all was lost. I think we all remember it quite well on the top of TSN trade bait boards. It was Matthias Ekholm's going to XYZ place. It was Philip Forsberg might be getting moved to Toronto. It was this, that, and the other thing. And I think you look at the young pieces, Tanner Jeannot obviously earning a protection spot with this team. He had a great audition for a 15-game stint and played admirably in the playoffs as well. In addition to a 4th line that brought a lot of firepower and juice and entertainment each night. So when it comes to the Nashville Predators, they're really expecting these young guys that they leaned on heavily in the back half of last year on their run to getting into the postseason and giving the Carolina Hurricanes a run for their money, 4 straight overtimes, losing in a 6-game series. They're really counting on these young pieces to take yet another step forward and continue the development curve that David Poile sees as necessary for this organization. It's younger pieces, it's filling in the cracks around, and it's trying to find some upper end talent. And I really think that's where Cody Glass fits into this picture, as being a guy that maybe with a change of scenery, having a full-time opportunity to be a 2nd, possibly 3rd line center to start the season, but for sure a middle 6 role. It's going to be very, very interesting in Nashville. And it's one of those things where it's hard not to be optimistic, knowing everything they went through last year and knowing that a majority of the pieces that were responsible for the success last year are coming back. They just may not be the most well-known around the league yet because of the amount of pedigree that they have in terms of games played. But I'm overall excited for the season. I think David Poile's not quite done yet. Obviously, the other kind of elephant in the room that needs to be acknowledged is that with those trades came a lot of cap space. They're still sitting with $20 million in cap space, and with that gives you options. So I don't think he's done quite yet. It's definitely not a commitment to a rebuild, but definitely an aggressive retool. And I think as the team currently stands right now, they are competitive-ish. So that's the synopsis on my Preds at this present moment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they're going to continue to be Smashville or if they're going to be Crashville.
How long did you have that one written for, Jason?
I like it.
I had that in my head for like the last 10 minutes, ever since I asked you the question.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll hang a banner when we get to the 2nd round this year in acknowledgement that Clark's team can't get there. So
dad joke level expert. So let's burst right into and address the elephant in the room. The Calgary Stampeders, terrible start so far, 0-2. What do you make of what's happened so far from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the start that we thought it would have been. For me, like, we are the youngest team in the league, but I didn't think that was going to be a setback. I think if you really look back at 2 games in particular and really analyze them, the first game against Toronto was ours to win. Unfortunately, the first drive from us was horrible, and the last drive was horrible as well. If you take those away, I think that's really our game. We had scored more than Toronto did. They just got the touchdowns. We've been having a problem getting into the end zone, and that's been the story so far, I think, in the first 2 weeks, is just crossing that line. I don't know if they know what that line is. You just got to cross it, gives you 6 points. I think that's been the main thing. Rene Paredes is automatic. He's been our leading scorer. He's kicked everything. So for me, looking at the BC game, I don't care whether it was Michael Riley going in or Nathan Rourke. You have to be prepared no matter who's coming into the game. And I think at the end of the day, like, our offense just hasn't been clicking. There's a couple instances in the game where I kind of questioned the coaching decisions. 2 of them, I believe we had a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 3, and we kicked field goals. I wasn't sure why we didn't try to draw BC offsides. If we take the 10-yard penalty and don't draw them off, Rene is still hitting that field goal. So it kind of surprised me a little bit why you wouldn't just try to draw them, because we were right near the red zone. We were touching it. So that would have given our team momentum as well if we could just draw some penalties off of BC. And if you don't, then you kick the field goal 10 yards back and Rene would have hit them. So I wasn't sure why we didn't go for that. But that's kind of my analysis so far.
Yeah, there were actually, I believe, a couple instances as well where we were 3rd and 2 or 3, and I think even in one instance 3rd and 4 where we actually gambled. Once we made it, and I think the other 2 we came up short, but definitely some odd coaching decisions there. in the red zone. I believe there's at least 2 interceptions in the end zone, if I'm not mistaken, possibly 2 for sure. Bo Levi does not. I was going to say he doesn't seem to be on his game, but he got almost 300 yards passing against BC, and I think he was around 260 against Toronto. So it's not like he's not throwing the ball well. It's just not finishing in the red zone, I guess.
Exactly. That's what it's been for me, is that it's just been like we've driven the ball, whether it's been a good field position or not. It's just getting into the end zone that's been the biggest problem, because field goals aren't going to win you a game. And then our defense can only hold so much. They're kind of a new group. You got some veteran leaders on there, but some young guys as well. And there's only so much they can do when your offense just isn't putting up 6 points. So I think looking at Montreal, like, it's going to be a hard-fought game, but I think we could pull it out. Montreal's always kind of been an interesting team to go up against. Dave Dickinson's record against Montreal is 4-4 as a head coach. So we've had our wins, we've had our losses, but it's the 3rd week straight at McMahon, and if we lose 3 straight home games start the season, I don't remember the last time that's ever happened, or if that's ever happened. So that would not be ideal.
Well, I know I believe I heard them say on the Fan 960 that it's been even a while since the Stamps even started 0-2. So definitely not in a good situation. Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned still having some gas in the tank, which is strange because me being a huge CFL fan, and especially the Stampeders, I've seen a lot of you, unfortunately, burning my teams. And it seems like you played in the CFL for so many years. I thought, oh, maybe he's retired, but you're only 33, 34 years old, aren't you?
Yeah, 34, turning 34 in September.
Yeah, so you're actually a lot younger than I thought you were. It seems like you played in the CFL for so long. Played with the BC Lions for many years, 4,000-yard seasons. Tell me what it was like playing for probably the best coach to ever coach in the CFL, Wally Buono. How's that?
Yeah, it's awesome, man, being able to play for a guy like that. But he was more so a mentor, like an uncle / anything you can name it. That's what it was like playing for him, because he was straightforward. He meant business, and he prepared you for life off the field, also on the field as well. So he was a good, valuable coach, man / mentor that I still keep in touch with till today.
No, that's great. From there, you went to the NFL or tried to go to the NFL, and came back to the CFL, finished with the BC Lions, and then went to Saskatchewan. Now, those are 2 totally different markets when it comes to fan base and popularity and financials. I think Saskatchewan is like huge on the popularity scale, and they're money makers because they sell merchandise like crazy. Tell me the difference between the 2 markets. Obviously, geographic location as well. Which one did you like better?
Man, I love Vancouver. That's my second home. But
Yeah.
just the fan base and the atmosphere, man, it's Saskatchewan. You know, those people live, eat, and sleep green. Games sold out, Mosaic Stadium rocking in the community. People gonna acknowledge you. It don't matter if you're in McDonald's, Walmart, anywhere. They love their Rough Riders. They love the Saskatchewan brand of football. So that's a good city to be in because they love football.
Yeah, no kidding. I think I read on your Wikipedia page as well that you were actually the BC Lions, Toronto Argonauts, and Edmonton Eskimos were all believed to have interest in you when you were a free agent. Were you close to going to any of those other teams, or was it BC all the way?
Yeah, for me, BC, but with my agent, you never know where he would try to get me to go to. But for me, it was going where it all started for me. The team that gave me an opportunity, the team that created the Manny Show brand. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about, man. You want to go where you need it, where you want it, and appreciate it. So it was familiar territory with me. So they welcomed me back with open arms. And at the end of the day, I had one job: to go out there and produce.
And produce you did. You were quite the receiver, as I said. Burned a lot of my teams many times. Reed, welcome to the Puck and Pigskin podcast.
I appreciate it. I interact a lot online. I see you posting a lot of the same things I do, so I'm glad that we can finally do this, somewhat face to face. So it's good.
Yeah, as face to face as we can for now.
Yes.
Let me start by asking you about the name Mark Cass. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so we get that a lot because my co-host name is Paul and my name is Reed. So we are wrestling fans first and foremost. That we've watched wrestling for most of my life, and Paul, and so we go to a lot of like WrestleMania. We went to New Orleans and saw WrestleMania. We went to Texas and saw WrestleMania. And in wrestling, the term Mark is used quite a bit as someone that believes like you're all in, committed to something, that you don't believe that you believe that Hulk Hogan, right, is the strongest person in the world and could beat everybody and all that stuff. And so when we would go to wrestling shows, we would just scream that all the time, call each other Marks, call other people Mark, sit down Mark, shut up Mark, don't do that, whatever. And so when the XFL was coming back, because we followed it for the 2.0, and then when The Rock bought it and everything here back over a year ago now, I was talking to Paul about I really wanted to do a XFL podcast. I really wanted to get into the media landscape of that side of it. And I said, well, why don't we just call it the XFL Markcast? Not podcast, call it the Markcast because we're Marks. And so it is kind of stuck. And then once we kind of forayed into other alternative football leagues like the Spring League and Fan Control Football, and now obviously CFL, we decided that the XFL Markcast name really inhibited us to be able to talk about because we had always covered other leagues. I mean, even NFL stuff when it was pertinent. And so we dropped it and just kept with the Markcast. And I felt like that was good, that we didn't have to rebrand too much.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I when I first followed you, you were the XFL Markcast, and I didn't even realize that you dropped the XFL. I hadn't even noticed.
Well, and it was one of those things where, I mean, obviously, the logo is still an XFL inspired logo, right? I mean, that's always going to be part of the story of how we got into, as little knowledge as we had to talk about the XFL when we started, right? So did we when it came to the CFL, right? And that's always been our story as people, coming into something kind of from the outside and giving our perspective on it. And so similarly to how we kind of jumped into the XFL, kind of with that rebirth, obviously it forayed really well of us talking to the CFL now, when all the talks and all that stuff came about. And obviously, even though that all devolved currently, it just adds to the story of who we are. We're not trying to say like, oh yeah, we've been around talking about CFL football for 30 years, I mean, it's very much a part of our story of where we came from. So.
Yeah, and you guys have come a long way, because I watched a few of your episodes when you, I think, first became a CFL fans, at least from what I could tell. And you definitely talk a lot more about CFL now, and you definitely know what you're talking about, and that's really impressive for Americans.
Well, and it's a good niche for us, right? I mean, there's so many I'm in like groups with people, like there's so many like NFL, Bill's NFL podcast, Sam, whatever, we're watching, couch watching Sunday, whatever, all this stuff. Like, being an American podcast, they can talk about the CFL. It is a unique, I would rather be, it's the same with like weddings, right? Like in my business for weddings, like I would rather be like the best, most dominant, like wedding videographer. Like, I don't care about like destination weddings and traveling the world. Like, I just want to own the market that we're in. And it's the same thing with the CFL stuff. Like, that's something that's like really definable that we can do, and obviously talk about other alternate football stuff. And obviously, like, I watch the NFL every week. We talk about it when it's pertinent, but I would rather be one of 10 podcasts covering the CFL than one of 1,000 podcasts, trying to cover the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you mentioned the market that you're covering. What made you choose the BC Lions? Is that strictly because you're in the market, or is there something else?
No, so we did a whole episode about it back early on. So Paul, my co-host, chose the Argonauts, right? Toronto Argonauts. Part of that, I think, was a little tongue in cheek with the MLSE of the whole thing with the XFL and how they were kind of the ones that were spurring that discussion. Rumor has it, a lot of the partnership talks were spurred by MLSE. So Paul had chose the Argonauts. I chose the Edmonton Elks, who at the time were unnamed. I'm a Washington football team fan. So I really liked the idea of a team that has no name, right? The football club. Dave Campbell was one of the first guests we had of CFL Media on our show. Taylor Cornelius had played in the XFL for the Vipers with Jamie Elizondo as the offensive coordinator. They were going up to Edmonton. So there was a lot of things that really made sense for me to be an Edmonton fan. And so then, the season starts, when the XFL talks break up, Edmonton immediately said, thank God we don't want to have anything to do with the XFL. They posted their big statement. That soured me. They lost to the Ottawa Redblacks, the first week, who's the worst team in the league. They let go Derek Dennis and upset him. He's a friend of ours, friend of the show. And so we were on vacation in Hawaii, and I was just sitting there on the beach, and I said, all that the Edmonton Elks have really done since I become a fan of them is lose to the Red Blacks, piss off Derek Dennis, make fun of the XFL. And so Jim Mullen, president of Football Canada, is one of our longest time friends of the show. Obviously BC Lions fan, the proximity for us, with BC, I like Michael Riley. That was when the whole Nathan Rourke, Michael Riley, who is the quarterback of this team stuff was going on. And so it made a lot of sense. And then obviously we can travel, when my schedule allows, we can travel to BC games. So that is the long-winded story of that.